Hi there, everybody. This is Heather Lockett on the road with Lasting Conversations. And it is absolutely fitting that I'm literally doing this interview in my car, my little road trip car, with good friend Debbie Hudzik of Lotus Travel. And good morning. Hi, Debbie.
Good morning. This is Lasting Conversations on the Road tagline version.
It is on the road version. But, you know, technology is so extraordinary that I can do this. So I'm so happy to connect with you here. And I want to hear more about you and how you came to be. So Lotus Travel, just within the name of Lotus Travel, is so perfect because one of the things the two of us share actually is the lotus part. It's the birthing of ourselves. It's the rethinking of our lives and what nourishes us, what feeds us. And travel is a very, very big part of that. So tell us more about Debbie and your Lotus experience and how it really all culminates.
Sure. Well, I reached a point where I called it chapter 2 in my life, where I needed to change everything I was doing, living, where I was living, and most importantly, my career. So I did a lot of personal development work and waited for the messages to come to me of which path I should go to for my new career. And it was a no-brainer that it was travel because I realized at 52 years old that I have been a travel agent my entire life, but not as a career. So I did receive a message to go back to school. So I did go back to school and I studied event management, what it takes to become a travel agent, hospitality. And when all of this happened, I happened to be living in Bali, Indonesia, and my yoga practice was very serious. And I had to think of a name for my new business. And Lotus is a very common symbol used in the yoga world as a symbol of transformation. And it just seemed very fitting. So I did the research if that name was taken. And it was meant to be that my company is called Lotus Travel, because not only was it my transformation, a theme of all the trips that I help my customers with is they come to realize that travel is transformative. So the lotus flower cannot grow into its beauty unless it comes from mud. So you got to go through the muck to get to the good part sometimes in life and be transformed. And when people take trips, long or short, far away, close, something usually happens that changes their perspective in some kind of transformation.
Right.
So that is the story of that.
That is beautiful. So there's so many nuggets to tap into on that. You mentioned that you had been in Bali, and this might be part of our bit of kismet, because what had led you to Bali? Did you have the proverbial, not a fuck it and chuck it moment, but I'm just doing something completely different? Because you had a 365-day around the world trip. And as part of your downsizing of life and resizing of your life, is that correct?
That is 100% correct. When the decision had to be made to change my world, right, I took inspiration from the film and the book, Eat, Pray, Love, as my starting point and inspiration. And a big part of that story, which is a personal memoir of an author named Elizabeth Gilbert, the love part of her story happened in Bali. I wasn't in Bali looking for love. But that is what led me to Bali, really, was I mimicked her journey somewhat and added in my own elements, such as Africa, Thailand kind of thing. But it was a 365-day by myself, one girl, one suitcase, bunch of one-way tickets, and it changed my life.
Oh my gosh, that's really, really so fun. And so where I have downsized and I'm on this road trip and a resize, I should say, a resize of what I'm here to be doing. I don't have a plan. I mean, I've had kind of certain parts that I knew I was going to a certain thing in Tennessee, and I knew I was going to spend a week with my daughter in Boston, and I knew the general vicinity. But then comes the calling part and the winging it part. And so when you did your 365, had you planned every step of the way, or were you guided and maybe you thought you were going to sleep over here, but ended up on a train to somewhere else? Because that's kind of how I'm kind of flowing in a sense like that, which we'll get into some technical nuts and bolts of planning versus being on the fly in a sec. But your trip, had you planned it out, or was there a culmination of being with the wind?
It was a combo. It was a combo because, like that saying, something like, we make plans and then God laughs, or something like that.
Yes, exactly.
So with my situation, because it was international, in order to fly into an international destination, you must show a ticket that you leave, because you're only allowed to stay. Right. So I did have some tickets that were to send me somewhere else, but all of the little in-betweens, not so much, here and there. And that is also part of the adventure. There was one Airbnb that I was in Africa, and I just got a yucky feeling. I was just not comfortable. And I spent one night and left because I wasn't going to sleep in a place I wasn't comfortable. So that was, kind of last minute stuff, but I never really felt unsafe. And I welcomed all those little things. I might have been stressed for a minute, but that was a part of why I was doing this. Let's get out of my comfort zone, figure out who I am, what I can do. Much like you will probably discover, you can have a plan where you're going to take that car right now, and you don't know what's going to happen in between there and there. You never know.
Right. Because sometimes that is part of the fun. And sometimes there's an invitation that gets popped up. I had that the other day. Like, oh, come stay at my house. Okay, cool. Thank you. I had a home to stay in. And perhaps what we didn't realize is that each of us needed the depth of the conversation that we ended up having and sharing together. And so these, to allow the spaces of the impromptu is fun. And this gets into your actual profession. It's very interesting, especially being in an area. I'm currently up in the Northeast, where we're coming into high season, and people and families have planned for years, if not decades. They're going to have a week. Like they know their plan. And so it's been very interesting to try to say, well, hey, do you have space here? Nope, we're booked up. Or that the computers, this is going to get into something fun. The computers will say we're full up, but speaking with someone on the telephone, they can actually say, oh, but we have availability for a night or two here because there's a pocket or a window. And so I think this kind of also gets into, the wind versus the planning. And then as a professional, are you finding that the clients, is it better to do this planning or to find the windows of opportunity, where I'm not even sure of my question, but I think it has to do with, because I've thought, oh, should I reach out to Debbie? And then I get this message of, you'll be guided. You'll know. So tell us more from the professional standpoint in the nature of doing business. And because there's the booking online and all the bookings have really morphed and changed over the years.
Yeah, that's a multi-part question. As far as professionally, it is my job to make sure my clients are safe. Number one,
always.
So we can't really leave any windows open, because that would not make them feel safe, and I would be nervous while they were out there. So we want to. And
international travel, I will say, international travel is a whole nother animal. It's a whole nother thing. And so when I do that, I would absolutely use your guidance and you get into extraordinary experiences. So, but going back to perhaps more when it's within your own country or, no,
Or
I
road
might
trips.
even,
Road
yeah,
trips.
I'll rephrase
That's a
that. I'll
different
just let
story.
you
Yeah.
answer. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, if you ever get stuck, you can call me because
Always.
I
Yes.
have resources where I can open up a screen and I've got availability that I can see and help you with faster than you probably can, and
Cool.
maybe even for cheaper.
And very cool. And I'll definitely reach out to you about that because that has not been lost on me, as a matter of fact. That there are screens that are not for the mere mortals to see. So, but that's why, once upon a long, long time ago, when I was 21, 22 years old, I thought I trained actually as a travel agent, but at the same time, I was working at the Ritz-Carlton Boston, and it became, I had to choose. So I chose the hospitality field. I could actually make a tons more money at the time. But I've always had that in me to want to help people and find the travel and be able to make the suggestions based on experience. So let's get into the experiences that you curate for people, that you are very, very good at curating not only location experiences, but when you have a group, you've in your own way curated who's meant to be there, because that in itself can become an interesting journey of who's there on a trip. So tell me about your curating, and because you've had this depth of knowledge from your own experiences of traveling around the world.
Yes.
Because you have so much fun. You're lit. I'm looking at you right now. You're just lit and smiling.
So here's the process.
Yeah.
When somebody contacts me and they have a destination.
Right.
Paris. I'm going to use Paris for an example, right? Because
Sure.
that's pretty much one of the number one destinations ever for all time.
Sure.
So, but it's more than just Paris. So I go into this deep dive interview to find out their goals. Are they going there for fashion? Are they going there for the food? Are they going there for the history? There's several factors with not only Paris, but everywhere. So what are their goals? What do they want to come home and be able to say, I did that?
Right.
So once you know that pretty much makes the outline and leads my process through the rest of the way, where I'm going to recommend they stay, what excursions I'm going to recommend for them. So it's accomplishing their goals, I guess. And, it's no joke. Traveling those kinds of trips, those bucket list trips, which I specialize in, are expensive. It's most likely something that most people are only going to do once in their life, and it needs to be great.
It does need to be great. And you're the bucket list trip lady. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're all big deals. That 365 deal that I did, the way that I chose where I was going was all of my bucket lists. So I literally went on and printed Google Maps on 8x10 sheets of paper. I still have it. And scotch taped these two pieces of paper together so I can get a world map. Took a red pen and a ruler and went from Florida and just drew zigzag lines, put it up on my vision board, and said, this is what I'm going to do. And I actually went to a travel agent.
Yeah.
Because it was a big deal trip. And the travel agent looked at me like I had 7 heads. Because I think travel agencies are doing that now. Like if somebody came to me, I would help them do that.
Sure.
That's a lot of puzzle pieces because you have to have that ticket to somewhere else. But here's a little trick to that.
Yeah.
For the people who want to wing it, say you want to go to Paris, and then once you're in Paris, you rent a car and realize that you can drive to other countries, because Europe is other countries are easily accessible by driving to in Europe.
Right.
And say you get to Portugal and you love it there and you want to change things and stay there. And then you're like, oh, I'll just fly home from Portugal, but you've got that other ticket. If you're that kind of person that has that whim that maybe something like that could come up, you want to buy an airline ticket that is their flex ticket, their premium economy ticket, that they're not going to, that it's not a non-refundable ticket, that it's flexible. So you could swap it out for your departure. So when you arrive in France, the immigration department, they're going to say, oh, she has a return ticket. She's cool. We're going to let her in. And then you can change your mind later.
See, these are the things that having a professional such as yourself can help the footwork and the education of it, because it gets very, very intricate. And yet by doing that, it opens up literally the world of possibility.
Right. We will think of things that, unless you are a professional world traveler, that you might not think of, such as travel insurance. For my company personally, I do not work with clients who refuse it.
Okay.
And then it's too scary, especially after COVID. And if a client, my consortia gives us these documents, to cover everybody legally. And so there's a document that my client would sign where it's a waiver where they say, no, I don't want travel insurance. I'm not doing it.
Right. Well, but that's the thing is sometimes, there is the financial investment. Sometimes things happen medically, politically, and life happens. And why not? Because it doesn't cost that much really to do the travel insurance.
Right. And so what I've learned in the past with customers who didn't get it and anything went wrong, it became a little bit like my fault.
Okay.
And I'm not going to.
That they blamed you somehow?
Right.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
I mean, there's no logic to it, but it could happen.
Right.
So if a client says, I don't believe in travel insurance, then I will say, that's fine. Let me refer you to a colleague of mine that you might be a better fit for.
Sure. Well, and see, there it is. That gets back into the curating, and you're curating how you are choosing within your own self-care and the self-care of your business, how you're doing business.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
You might not be up on headlines that are happening here in Florida, but 3 days ago in the port of Miami, there was a very serious boat accident that involved fatalities.
Okay.
Because of that, they closed it down. 3 cruise ships are stuck in the ocean over here. 15,000 people can't get in. The majority of those people stuck have flights that day. Now we have the cruise port over here. We have another 15,000 that we're going to switch.
Sure.
They can't get on board. Let me tell you, that's 30,000 people. That stuff happens in travel all the time. You have to be ready for it. If any of those 30,000 people did not have travel insurance, they're out a boatload of money.
All pun intended. A boatload of money.
If you had travel insurance and this circumstance beyond anybody's control happened, you will get reimbursed.
Well, part of that too, and maybe it depends on the policy and what the trip is in the God forbid something happens, whether it's like that or medically, you have the opportunity to have coverage to physically get home. Like you need to get transported home or to where you need to be.
And drivers and hotels.
That's right. Yeah, it's a very big deal.
Trip interruption and trip delay. It's very important.
Yeah. See, these are very, very important things to have. And you're right. I didn't hear about that as I've been there's been some other strange news things up here, which we'll save for another day, something about body parts, but whatever. So, oh gosh. Now, what else would you like to share in terms of clients? Because the other thing that you do, you are also an accountant because you're a numbers whiz. And so that you kind of blend 2 worlds together. And are you making a change to do travel only, or that your wheelhouse in general is just help for helping people?
Oh boy, Heather, you're telling all my secrets.
Oh,
which
But you have, but you have
it's
a
actually
client.
not. It's
It's
actually,
actually right because you
well,
are a whiz with your accounting clients also.
it's on my website that I call myself a former accountant or reformed accountant.
Oh, a reformed
So
accountant.
um, that was my career, and that was part of what led to my breakdown, if you want to call it that, or whatever. When my worlds collided in on me,
Yeah.
was having a job like that was high stress and so many deadlines. I took a break from that and was saying that I don't want to go back to that industry.
Right.
However, after the 365-day trip, I need to put food on my table, and
Right.
I'm good at that. So I opened up a much smaller accounting practice that I still have to this day. And the beauty in that is I can keep it smaller.
Right.
I kind of have more control over it. So now I have two streams of revenue coming in, so that's beautiful. But for people who might think that's so crazy that, accountant and travel agent, I explain that an accountant takes numbers and
Right.
puts them in a picture of a financial report. A travel agent takes pieces of a trip, like a puzzle, and puts them together in a beautiful trip. They blend.
They absolutely
skills in
do.
accounting are similar skills to be a travel agent.
That's so cool. And I think that's why I brought it up, because I think for so many of us going through our own breakdowns, but the phrase comes to mind, a break up, like we're breaking up what has been normal. So stretching out of our comfort zones, all the while blending what is the best of us. So what you were just describing is blending the best of what you're really great at and what gives you passion. And then as time will tell, one can morph into the next thing. So I loved what you said about that. You're putting the pieces together, and that is your wheelhouse. You're brilliant at doing both, which ultimately culminates into the same thing. I love it.
Yeah, for anybody who's considering changing up their life or doing something different, you
Right.
kind of have to really figure out, what am I kind of naturally good at?
Right.
And you can twist that around a little bit. And I love what you said. And for forevermore, I will now say the word breakup instead of breakdown, because it's a much better word than breakdown. Breaking up with what I used to know.
Yeah.
For opening the doors to something new and better.
Right. Sometimes we do have to shatter our own illusions, shatter all of it. Somebody said breaking a mirror gives bad luck. I think it's quite the opposite in its own way. So for shattering the mirrors of what has been of ourselves, we have to do that. We have to then step into something, the proverbial looking glass, into something different and new and exciting. And like you said, take the best parts of us and do that self-exploration of what is it. And here's the thing is, if we sometimes really have to step out, not of our comfort zone, but of where we are physically living. And that's why travel or doing something, shifting what's different. One of the guests I had before, Sabas, he's definitely all about world travel. But what we were talking about, that could mean going to a different diner in a different town, or going down a different block, just doing a little something different that can kind of shake up come from our usual day. And so whether we're traipsing the deserts of Africa, or I do have a picture I haven't posted yet. Apparently there's a desert in Maine. And so I went to the desert of Maine.
Oh, great.
There's a funny camel picture it's just, these are those impromptu pieces of silliness that I love a sense of the absurd also. But going back to what we're kind of both saying here is, sometimes we do have to say, I don't know. But our heart knows, and the heart leads the way. And so utilizing our own intuition and professionals like yourself to say, here are some tangible tidbits that I can help you do your own self-discovery, or just go sit by a beach. But here's a really, really good beach you might want to try. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Another one of the things on my vision board was back then, gosh, I think it was 8 years ago. When you leap, the net appears.
That's right. When you leap, the net appears.
Leap. Leap, leap.
Sometimes it's one of those circus trapeze ones that is all encompassing. And sometimes it's the firefighters with the little circle thing trying to find you. Like, where are you going? We're trying to catch you.
Right. I mean, otherwise you're stuck. What fun is being stuck?
Right. That is not fun at all.
Yeah.
That is completely not fun. So what do you have on the docket for your summer? And what do you have coming up? You had an extraordinary trip for Bali, and you're planning ahead for next year. Tell us some of the things and where we can find you, and what else you would like to share about what you're doing, what you're planning, and anything else.
Do you know, if I don't have an airline ticket booked, I almost don't feel like I'm out of sorts. Like I always have to have, it's a crazy thing.
Well, and with that, you shared that you've chosen your home to be a smaller home than once upon a time, because it gives you the ability to just pop off where you would like to be, because the travel part, as you're sharing, is what is feeding you more than the big house.
I live by myself in a very, very small apartment that is affordable for me. And it doesn't hurt me so much if I leave for a month at a time, which I sometimes do. So what's coming up in about 2 weeks, I will be on a 21-day adventure to Portugal, where I'll be joining National Geographic, one of their divisions that focuses on small groups with deep dive into the culture of wherever we are. And that is most exciting. Then I have a friend joining me. We're going to do a fun girls trip, little thing in Portugal. And then I'll be by myself, where I'll be doing research for my business. I visit the hotels, do all the things so that I can now bring to you, because Portugal is a huge hotspot in travel. You know, I saw the other day, there's somebody measured over 800,000 expats have now gone to Portugal in search of a better life in Portugal. And I will report back what I think about that. So in order for me to discover that and really, really see that, you got to hang out with the locals, talk to the locals, which in that 21-day time period will give me time to do that. So that's exciting. But for 2024, we've got 2 things coming up. My signature women's retreat in Bali. That's an annual event that I do. And that is in March of 2024. And I launched that, maybe about 10 days ago, and I'm already half full. It's
nice.
And we're also going to be doing Greece in March of 2024 with a small group. So that's not a girls' trip. Everybody's allowed for this one. And that one is still in the works. So I don't really want to give that much away.
Sure.
But what I do know is it's going to be island hopping. And it's all of my trips involve a little bit of dive into the history, a lot dive into the culture, and a lot into the food.
Yes, beautiful. And so those are 2 huge trips just in the month of March of 24. That's very, very fun.
So Bali is in March of 2024, and Greece will be in May of 2024.
Oh, in May. Okay.
Yes.
In May of 2024. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. So I will be on both of those. It's like I'm your guide.
You're such a great steward, so that you're also enjoying your trip, which is helping your clients enjoy their trip.
Oh, it's bonus.
It's total bonus.
Total bonus.
And that you're not having 20 40, 50 people. These are small, intimate, again, well-curated folks on an adventure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. All they have to do when you come on my trips like this is throw things in your suitcase. And I'm even going to give you the list of what to put in your suitcase. So you just close the suitcase, your driving arrangements, even to get to the airport, is going to be arranged. But there's lots of free time in there in all of my trips too. So because not everybody wants to hike the volcano or go to this museum. So on these trips, every other day is open. And then everybody consults with me. What do you think about this or that? And then I will make those arrangements for you.
That's perfect. It's just lovely. And you also do some personal tours of the Palm Beach area. You do smaller nugget things too, which is a lot of fun, right?
Right. I'm the only personal island guide here in Palm Beach, Florida. It's a 3-hour thing I do. And those are fun. And those are really busy in season. And I get to meet people from all over the world. And lots of people are curious about the lifestyles of the rich and famous here in Palm Beach, Florida. And I love telling those stories. So that's another small side business I have.
Yeah. Oh, fun. What would you say to me on this road trip? And with that, what you're really talking to are other people this summer. Maybe they're on the road. Maybe they want to be on the road. Maybe they're traveling with children. Give us a little send off of what you'd like to say.
Sure. Well, happy and safe travels. Do not let the little hiccups that get in the way bother you. Look at them as blessings.
Right.
Know that sometimes some of the what might seem stressful and horrible in the moment turn out to be the best stories you will tell later.
Exactly. And one more little interesting piece of that comes into the investment, because as you had mentioned earlier, travel can get expensive, especially if you're traveling in season of a place where rates all of a sudden have almost doubled. Within that, though, I keep getting reminded of this is part of the journey, this to allow, like that Lotus, allow the money, because then it comes back to you. Allow the money, allow the investment in yourself, because then it just comes back to you, maybe perhaps even tenfold. What would you say about that?
I'm so glad you brought that up, Heather, because I didn't even really think about that piece of it. I think the financial and investment part of it is what holds so many people back. They have to fix their car, or they've got a medical, there's a zillion and one. And here's what I'm going to say about that. Your money will come back. Your time will not. The end.
That's right. Right. And it's not as though a car or whatever doesn't need to be fixed. And yet, and I will say, and it's, kind of warms my heart, the memories. It's the memories that you're also curating. And so
there's no price on that.
And that's priceless. And so if you have kids, you're bringing up kids or your families or whoever it is, your friends, those memories are priceless, that you can't, money can buy things like a memory. It sounds really weird and probably not phrased right, but truly to put in the money to gift yourself and the people you're with your time, because the time is all we have. And if we don't have it tomorrow, well, that's why waste it, and get out and have some fun.
You could also look at it this way.
Yeah.
There comes a point, I can't imagine it for me, but there will come a point when I really can't travel the way that I travel anymore. Right. So I don't know at what age that will be. So do I want to be the grandma that tells my grandkids, oh, I worked 60 hours a week and I had a big, beautiful house? Or do I want to be the grandma that tells my kids, do you know that time I went and saw the pyramids? Do you know the time that I rode down the river in Vietnam? Or, what do the grandkids want to hear?
Right. Plus, and that these are what you can do too, right? Because then that's the legacy that we leave. Like, look at these adventures that the world is open to you as well. Right.
Some of the biggest regrets people have as they age, I've heard it so many times is, I wish I took the trip. I wish I took. You're not going to get time back. If there is something in your life, whether it's travel or not, that you've always wanted to do, if not now, when?
I like it. And that might be the good cherry on top to end this particular conversation. Hopefully you'll be back and we can talk some more, but if not now, when? That is a good thing for summer 2023 and beyond. Debbie Hudzik, thank you so much for being here.
Namaste.
Namaste. And thank you everybody for listening. Please be sure to like, follow, review, and share this podcast. And if you would like to be part of the conversation, send emails to podcasts@lastingconversations.com and find us on Facebook at Lasting Conversations. This is Lasting Conversations. We get to the heart of everything.